Did you do it? Oh, really? Okay. I kind of figured I'd say, yeah, bring it, and then you would be a bit of a delay.
I'm going to go fix this broken prototype.
2, 1.
We're on. Okay. Well, good morning, Kickstarter. Good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are in the world. Welcome to Kickstarter Hangout number 2. My main man, Larry Lander, running the sideshow over here. Tom went back to get some tape because we realized we're not ready with a certain thing, but we'll be back in a second. We're going to cover 3 topics with you today in an agenda fashion, and then, as always, open it up to question and answer. But first, the standard moment where I say thank you so much for the incredible support that you continue to show us. And I just want to say we got back from a hugely important show at Outdoor Retailer. This was last week. We were there for the whole week. Hey, that's Tom, everybody. You remember him? We won 8 Best in Show awards at Outdoor Retailer. 6 of those were for the tripod. This is not official because I haven't heard anything to the contrary, but I'm pretty sure that there is no product that even came close to winning that many Best in Show awards. And let that...
It's official.
It is official. That's why Lawrence is here. Fact checking. It is official, and the best thing about that is that I just know that with all the incredible hype that this Peak Design travel tripod has, it's been reviewed by so many people, all the comments out there, is it worth the hype, is it not worth the hype? It's worth the hype. It's totally worth the hype. So, very excited about that.
Oh, wait, pause, real quick, let me check. Yeah, it's worth the hype.
Oh yeah, it's worth the hype. Thanks, Lawrence. So right to it, the 3 things that we wanted to talk about. Number 1, the intro, done. Number 2, ultralight. Interesting, huh? Number 3, spike feet. We know what that's about. Number 4, the hex key. That's been a journey, and then we'll take Q&A. So first, without further ado, ultralight. What are we talking about here, Tommy?
All right, well, we have a couple engineers over in China right now, Rob and Wheeler, and they're working really hard at a carbon fiber manufacturing plant there, getting the legs dialed. And one of our guys, Wheeler, had this cool implementation of, I believe, an idea you originally had, which was, is there a way to make the travel tripod basically, can it have a backpacker mode of being super lightweight?
That's right.
And maybe in that context, if you're out hiking Yosemite, et cetera, you don't need the full height of deployment, but you basically want a really nice, full utility ball head, but just on an ultralight setup.
Quick story about how that came to be. I was lucky to be in Chamonix for a skiing vacation in January, and I walked into the boot fitting arena, and there was this old crusty guy there. I hope he's probably watching. He's a big Peak Design fan. Anyway, he recognized me. He's not old and crusty. He's a little crusty. I showed him the tripod, and he was like, "Wait, that's incredible. That's one of the coolest looking tripods I've ever seen in my life. I'll never use it. It's too heavy for me." I was like, "What are you talking about? It's the lightest travel tripod that's ever been made." And he's like, "Yeah, I need something really light." And so I really wanted to satisfy this dude's concerns, and that was the case for a couple of other really savage mountaineering photographers. Ben Tibbetts, who was a guy that I was touring with there, and I started thinking, man, is there a way that we can drop out all the lower leg sections? So anyway, that's the origin of that, the origin of that idea.
Yeah, and the designers on the project are thinking, of course, but that's going to be really hard, and that might really, result in a worse product ultimately, or whatever. But basically, we did a bit of work, and we came up with a way to sort of quickly get rid of the leg sections and allow you to go from a full functioning tripod. This one doesn't have a head. Actually, remove the 3 leg sections, and then replace those leg sections with these little feet. So we're basically, I don't think we have our terminology worked out, but this is like an ultralight conversion kit for backpackers. So you have this option. If you're about to go on your trip, you can sort of convert your tripod to this ultralight mode. I will try to show you with some fairly beat up prototypes how that happens. So there is this top, we're calling this the leg shroud, and we actually made this to be cammed as well. A lot of these other cam collars are made using cams. And the way you do it is actually just to pop it open. You swing it open like this, loosen the top cam, and then you can pull the whole leg out. So you can do it super fast.
Yes.
And you can put it back in quite easily as well. And so at that point, then you'd pop in your foot here. This is just a 3D printed foot. But you do that with each leg section. So you do that with three total leg sections. Same process. Pop open the cam, open the top cam, leg shroud, top cam, and then out comes the leg. And then again, you install the foot. So ultimately with this one, I can't do it all the way, but I can show you that the final ultralight product might look something like this. And could kind of achieve that like Joby mini tripod utility, whether you're in low mode or not. But yeah, so this, I mean, we can show you there's a scale right here.
So as a refresher, we've got 1,280 grams for our full carbon fiber tripod. 1,280.
And if you add up all those leg sections, that is about 600 grams.
So let's go ahead. Whoops, sorry about that, bud. In order to save ourselves the math, we've got a tripod that you bring with you that is 614 grams. Now, obviously, you know, you add the center column in there. Oh, we didn't have the center column in there. That's
Yeah, I think you got to do that for a
no.
fair comparison.
Yep, here we go. For 674 grams of packable weight, you're going to carry with you a tripod that's going to end up coming up to about 2 feet. And you're going to have a range all the way down from 0 to 2 feet. This is amazing for certainly like Star Trail shots, a lot of those mountain shots that you're getting with great foreground from a low position. This will suffice for a lot of needs in the backcountry. And what you effectively get then is sort of 2 tripods for the price of 1 if you're willing to invest in the upgrade kit. We haven't come up with a price on the upgrade kit yet. With reasonable certainty, I'd say it'll be somewhere between $20 and $50 based upon where our cost of goods sold come in. And so I just think that this is an incredible addition. A 675 gram tripod is way lighter than a Joby Gorilla Pod. And just incredible functionality, full beautiful ball head that you get. So I think that this is a really exciting thing. I can't quite hear the applause. But,
you do a great like a late night TV bit.
Yeah, I would.
And if for $10 more,
actually, Vic, if we could get some canned applause for next time. Mark, put in a Jira request for that, please. Thank you.
Lawrence, I think it could be cool if you're able to monitor any of the comments. We could, if people have specific questions about this mode, I know originally we planned to do Q&A at the very end, but we might be able to do a little bit of questions.
I guarantee you questions will pop up about that.
Okay.
If they're not, what do you think?
The problem is that we're in the future, right?
We're in the future, right?
Okay.
So we're going to continue with presentation mode for a little bit.
Okay. No problem.
And then So Tommy, why don't you just show them the spike feet?
Okay. Spike feet.
Okay. Now it's clapping. There it is.
Something everyone's been asking about. We now have the ability to swap in spike feet here. It uses the same screw that comes with your original feet, and you adjust it using a 4mm hex. So we could do a quick demo of this, but I think you guys get it.
I think it's reasonable. I don't think that's
you
very challenging to
unscrew
understand.
one foot.
Yeah, and then you put on the other one.
Another one.
Nothing particularly legendary about that.
No, this is what they look like. These are 3D printed. We have some stainless steel samples, and we're currently debating some of the best finishes to make that like a very permanent black finish for a steel foot. And we're basically hitting the entire tripod with. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I'm not sure.
Oh. Could be aluminum, could be steel. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
Why are they at that angle?
That's a great question. I feel like that was something that Art brought up, or possibly Rob, but I also had seen it in the comments that one user had kind of correctly identified that we've canted it at this angle so that it really plugs into the ground. If it just simply continues on the angle that where you're shooting from, it's very likely that you're not going to take advantage of the geometry of that spike, and it's going to be kind of sliding across there. That's why we've designed them at that angle.
Yeah, and we've talked to several photographers who end up using spiked feed almost as a default, even on harder surfaces. And if you're out shooting outdoors anywhere, you can actually get way better grip than with the rubber, which can like move slightly. We see some of the pros actually using spiked feed. It's kind of counterintuitive, but they're using it on like granite surfaces, and these little spikes will dig into the rock, and you get actually an incredibly stiff setup. And then you can also get the legs going at kind of crazy angles because you have better purchase.
Totally just a dorky question. I don't know if it has any bearing on this. Do you lose damping if you've got the spikes on the rock?
You
If you're using spikes on a hard surface, do you lose some of the ability to dissipate vibration?
Yes, so we haven't done any testing on that. I think it's a good point, and I think it's almost certain that you'd affect your damping performance. And we've seen just the specific type of elastomer we're using for the feet have a huge impact on how fast you can attenuate a camera shake. Lawrence is talking about damping, which is basically how quickly, if you shake the camera, how quickly does it stop and arrest that shake. So yes, I think with spiked feet, you'd probably get a little worse damping, and we have no science on that yet.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of people out there who have tripods are already shooting with like the self timer. We've certainly found that that's still a great way to do it. At least 2 seconds, just like let that vibration dissipate, and then let the shopper.
Yeah.
I don't know what they know that.
Cool. I think that's it for the presentation portion of Spike Feet. Let's talk about the hex key. What a kerfuffle this has been. I think that, that's kind of a long backstory. We had been trying for a long time before we ever released the product to tuck a hex key into this thing. But we didn't want to make it one of the primary design drivers because it feels like it should not affect the actual architecture. And so we theorized of ways that we could actually stuff it into a cavity in the hub, and that didn't work for some structural reasons. We've tried a myriad of solutions both before we launched the product, and then when we came out with the solution of putting the hex key in the bag, which we thought was a little less than ideal, but thought that it would probably be okay since it's a pretty nice bag and you're liable to take it with you considering how small it is. The people backing the project in large part were complaining about that, and I think for good reason, because it's actually happened to me a couple of times already where I've wanted that hex key, and I don't know if it's because I'm doing too many demonstrations, but it simply got misplaced, and so it can happen. I get it.
Yeah. I think this the hex key situation, although it might sound like a small detail, this last 0.1% of a well-designed product, I think it's a really good kind of anecdote about how Peak Design operates and about how much these designers and everyone at the company, how much they care about shipping a great product. And that basically has come out in this hex key issue. First, we've heard a whole bunch of responses from Kickstarter backers to a level where it made us actually reconsider the importance of having it always on the tripod and always available. Yeah. And some strong personalities in the office about having that opinion. It actually led to this hilarious situation where we had a Slack side conversation in our work chat, which was like 115 messages long, from a guy doing Amazon sales in England, and one of our
From
Adam Hicks. Yeah.
But it's a wonderful anecdote about how much everyone in the company cares and wants to see good ideas implemented and shipped and included in this product.
And how, I totally agree with you, and how feedback from Kickstarter backers, maybe we've got a hunch there, maybe we don't, but if you bring a thing up, we're certainly going to look even harder at it. Which is man, you can't do that if we just took a product to market. That's a Kickstarter perk. We
That's
love
right.
that.
Absolutely. Great point.
So among the kind of cool options we considered, one, we have this hook which already has some extra functionality, weight hanging, etc. This hook actually has a hex implemented in the top. And so you could use this hook to tighten your plate screw if it came loose and adjust some of the other features on the tripod.
I think real quick-
Ultimately, the limitation, oh, go ahead.
Where does that hook belong? Just tell people where that hook belongs.
Okay, sure, yeah. So this hook normally stows in here, in this location, and this is slightly incompatible, so it's an older design, so it won't actually fit, but that's the idea, is this hook normally goes there, and it allows you to access this mobile mount, which is for your cell phone. Is that enough context, Vic?
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, so we had the idea to implement a hex key on this hook itself. One of the issues is it became not quite as easy to use when you're swapping out the ball head. We would have had to make several modifications. And then also, this is just one size of hex. So all of the adjustment cam screws on the tripod are actually a 2.5 millimeter hex, and this is only a 4 millimeter. So this kind of the one thing this could do is tighten the plate. Still useful, but it didn't solve all the use cases. We considered an option here, which this is basically a plastic snap, but it's done in a thoughtful way. It clamps onto the inside of a leg, so the actual aesthetic hit, the aesthetic pain isn't like too bad, but we spent so much time trying to make this thing beautiful, and so to add the clip last minute was something we had to really struggle with the utility, the benefit it was adding, seeing as how you could just store these things in the bag. And then another solution, and this is essentially our top contender, is to do this sort of combination. We just had Rob made a sort of beautiful sort of scissor mechanism, double hex key. We don't have an official name for it yet, but the idea is to have a rivet connecting these two different hex keys that can actually swing out, allowing you to get really good purchase and grip, and it folds for storage. And it's basically a super cool solution that's going to be a tiny bit more expensive and take a little bit more time for us to develop. But ultimately, we want to ship the best product, and we want to take a chance everywhere where there's an opportunity to make something cool instead of just doing the lame thing. We want to do the cool thing. So we are going to we're going to work on this more. This is a 3D print. This is going to become real very soon, and we still want to integrate it using a clip or sleeve. So we're still figuring out exactly how we're going to attach it to the tripod, but you can see the tripod has quite a bit of space in these in between the legs, and so we are planning on putting this 4 and 2 millimeter hex, and basically having it be by default always come with your tripod.
That's right.
I'm going to do a few quick marketing disclaimers based on all the stuff we're talking about here.
Sure.
So, spike feet, ultralight conversion kit, and whatever we end up doing with the hex key. Everything we've been looking at today, these are all at varying stages of development. So don't use this video as your sort of like moment of truth. I gotta know, why are you doing this? Why are you not doing that? These are sort of meant to be conversation starters, sure. For sort of authority on like what it will finally look like, we'll make an official announcement, and we'll have real photography, and we'll give you all the details, we'll give you the price. And so just a thing to keep that in mind as you're looking at these, especially with this sort of display and number of different options that we've got in regards to the hex key situation. And then another disclaimer related to the hex key is that we still, I don't know if you mentioned it, but the method of attaching the plate to your camera, we are just so committed to that. That is like a thing that we stand by. It's a thing that comes from our other super successful products. The standard plate is a plate we know and worked really hard on, and it works. So that is a sort of a side conversation that we have addressed, sort of, and that's just the general gist of that argument or that conversation right there. But just to kind of keep these things siloed, and so that we don't get too noisy with how we talk about them.
Sure.
Carry on.
Sure. I will take just a hot minute to, like, it's ridiculously, this little thing is a bit more of a gut-wrenching decision than you might imagine. It is simply extra time and extra work and provides a certain level of uncertainty. And what I have to do is make assurances to the engineering team that building these things, tens of thousands of these things, has to remain priority number one. And so what that means to the schedule is that we can't have the schedule being impeded by this. And in some ways, it already has, because there's been a lot of thinking time that's gone into this. But we need to ship tripods first and foremost. So when this gets implemented, I'm hopeful that it can ship with the original batch. I really am. But that's not something that we're in a position to promise, just because the development of this is so much later than the 4 years that has gone into this thing here. So I am reassuring my engineering team that they can plow ahead with the mountains of work that they have to do just to build all of these things to a high degree of precision. But we're not forgetting about these little details.
While we're still on the hexes, real quick, one of the most common comments we're getting right now is like, well, no matter what, can I still put it on a keychain? We get a lot, so just like we hear that. I think it's worth saying we heard you there.
Interesting. Wow. Tommy,
Well, there's a small hole in the center there. So
easy with the engineering talk.
We considered that use case, and we want it to exist. And our latest conversation with Rob about it we also need to make sure that it works exceptionally well, and that in these modes where you're actually putting a lot of torque through a joint, that the joint is stable. But we hear that use case, and we would love to support that and to have this thing be easily carryable on a little keychain.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yep. That's an insightful question. Cool.
Yes, it is. All right, so those were the known itinerary topics. Right?
Yeah.
So now we're going to kind of just move into a more general Q&A. We've gotten still a few questions about the bubble level in regards to its intended use. So if you want to talk about that a little bit. And Kix has also been using it where you can, if you really want to see that level, you can mount the camera.
That's right. Basically, your standard operation does have the level. You might set your level and then decide you're ready to go, and then put your camera on there. A lot of people see that as less useful than being able to judge it afterwards. Good thing, we have a 4-way omnidirectional plate, so you just snap your camera in this way, go ahead and lock it up, and now I've got clear visibility into my bubble.
I'm going to give Vic a top-down view.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Are you able to see that? Perfect. So yeah, that's a great easy hack, and ultimately a lot of modern photographers are using the leveling system on their camera, or they're operating so quickly that they're not taking the time to use the bubble level very often. So in our decisions about what to do with that level, we actually considered an implementation where it's inside of this, what we're calling the cinch ring. So we actually mocked up a prototype of the bubble level right there, which made it more visible. But the trade-off is that it also made it a much more likely point of failure. You drop it and then you'd end up with a shattered bubble level. And yeah, basically for the amount of people that are using this thing frequently, it didn't really make sense to introduce this new failure mode. So what ultimately we want it to be safe and packed into a lot of aluminum and be durable. And then if you want to use it, you can flip the camera around.
Yeah, and it really is not more challenging to put the camera in this way. You get to see where you're towing in. It's very easy. So Tom did refer to it as a hack, and I suppose that makes sense considering it's kind of not the original intended methodology, but it's really not more challenging. So I don't think we need to worry about it.
A beautiful hack.
A beautiful hack. Those exist. What else we got, Lawrence?
A couple questions. We have talked about it a lot, and we actually have videos that address it. But just maybe you got 2 minutes on the clock. Why is there no panning?
Sure. Tom, you've had those announcements before.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's a travel tripod, and so we have we had a pretty clear list of priorities. This is conversations we had with a lot of photographers who are operating in this. Well, travel tripod is in this lightweight and quick setup category, and for those users, having a very simple UX ends up being a higher priority than having a whole bunch of features in a head. And one of our major pain points when we operate heads across the board, whether it's Me Photo or Be Free, etc. A lot of those heads that have many knobs, whether that's a tension adjustment knob and a panning knob and a ball head lock knob, you end up with so many knobs that it becomes every time you use it, you're ignoring two of the knobs, or 95% of the time you're using it, you're ignoring these knobs. And it makes what we'd call like a clunky user experience. It's not as useful. Granted, we're taking a feature that people may be used to, and we're taking it out. So we're challenging the status quo, which is to say that panning should be built into every head, and we're basically saying, well, in our implementation, we think this is a flexible light setup. And then if you are that user who is doing landscape stitch photography and is not using digital tools, or would like to have things perfect before they go into the digital spectrum, then for sure we basically have a couple options for you to do that, and they're additive to this tripod. So there are both options you can buy on Amazon. We could go get some of these physical samples to show you, but that would allow you to have a small panning ring on top of our existing head. Mm-hmm. So our claim essentially is that we are making a better workflow and an easier, faster workflow and more simple for a lot of the people who are going to use this, and at the expense of some of those users who do need that dedicated feature.
And I'll say that Peak Design is certainly capable of building that panning ring that goes on top. And earlier implementations of this did have panning included, but it adds that much more vertical stack. And in a travel tripod that's trying to be the world's most efficient on a number of factors, adding in that vertical stack was not desirable. And the reason that we haven't prioritized making that panning puck right now is that for the vast majority of tripod users, this does the trick. And I know that there's a very vocal group out there that does miss panning, and for the time being, those other options on Amazon, which are not expensive, are, I think, a very good kind of stopgap situation.
Yeah, but we also, we listen to comments carefully, and we, in our product development map, there are certainly offerings on it that would better suit a video customer. So this is not something that we have forgotten. It's absolutely something that is in our minds, and what we're doing is we're shipping the simple, easy to use version now, and we're debating as a design team and with Pete essentially where to go next and how to offer the most utility, especially to video customers who need both pan and tilt as an option.
That's right.
That's a really good segue. Why don't we do a quick show off of the head adapter? I know Vic just photographed a video head.
Sure.
Oh, look who's coming with a strap that I requested over Slack.
Okay, guys.
Okay. So pretty simple Manfrotto pan tilt head here. Obviously, if you're already in the video biz, you're gonna have your pan tilt head, and fortunately, you can certainly work with the Peak Design travel tripod. So obviously, this provides, a lot of your spatial efficiency has gone down when you're using someone else's head like this, but it presents a pretty great option if video is your main thing and you want to save yourself a ton of bulk on the legs. Plus that you've still got the photo head, so presumably that can be useful to you in certain workflows as well. So I think that we've got pretty decent options right now for videographers and pan tilt. And like Tom said, in the coming years, we certainly intend to service those customers. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Like when we launched this thing on May 18th, we became a tripod company, and it's our intention to continue supporting that in the most meaningful way that we can in the right time frame.
Close it up to show people how well packs are.
Sure. Yeah. None too shabby.
Not bad.
None too shabby. Well, you can even imagine there might be room for this bar where the center column was, or perhaps in that void there. I'll bet there's some pretty clever stuff that we can do when it comes time to make that. A lot of ideas.
Looking at that, one more little detail, very, very minor detail, but we have in our adapter, we have little set screws. So if, like me, you've occasionally been frustrated when you tighten your head onto a 3/8 adapter, and then maybe in this case you would have panning and you're adjusting on that panning direction, you end up unscrewing the head accidentally. So it's a thoughtful little detail to have these screws there. So if you want to basically tighten that and make sure it's not going to come loose, you have that option with our head.
Cool.
Sweet. Could we do a live demo of attaching anchors and a strap to a tripod?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sorry, Hayden only could manage to bring an old strap.
Ooh, that is a very old.
Is he not fired yet?
He's
mistake.
he's going to college soon. Should we just fire him the day before, you think? It seems like the right thing to do.
So what I just did is I reoriented the hook. The hook can go in several different orientations, but the best orientation for carrying is when these two holes are aligned. So I just rotated the hook so that the two holes are in the same plane, and then now I'm going to try to install this strap. So that's one side. The second side is up around the hub. So then you have a couple red accents on an otherwise black product, and you have the opportunity to now clip on any Peak Design strap. So in this case, do that, and this allows you to carry your tripod without the bag at all. You also have the option of carrying it with the strap and inside the bag, but we wanted this to be a flexible product, and people use it in all kinds of different ways. We want to make a use case where you can attach the strap directly to the tripod.
And for the gutsier few out there, you can of course attach your camera, and we recommend of course you lock it up in that instance, and then you've got your camera and your tripod kind of camera hanging down in such a way that you can deploy it and just keep your camera mounted on your tripod. And a few different ways to pull that off, but it's actually pretty comfy to work around with.
Pete, you want to take a minute and explain why you have a tucked-in shirt on? I think that might be throwing people off.
Well, what's funny is you don't even know why I have a tucked-in shirt right now.
Could
and
you
you're just
go ahead
taking
and
a
take a minute
chance.
and explain to
I'm
me?
going to a funeral, Lawrence. No,
Oh,
just kidding. It's not a funeral.
Funerals are funny though.
Yeah. No, I am going to a benefit dinner with the Wilderness Society this evening to honor Governor Jerry Brown for his work in environmentalism in capitalism. And I'm pretty excited about it. They said cocktail attire, so I wore salmon-colored pants. What do you think?
You're doing great.
Am I doing great? All right.
Look great.
First time. Yeah. I think they're pretty good to the rear. I think, Yeah. Thanks, Lawrence.
Yeah, you bet. I'm just going to keep them coming in here.
Yeah.
But
Dual
that was from a
plate.
comment board, right?
Yeah.
The dual plate. What kind of entry does that have into this head?
You're referring to
Don't
this
show me,
plate.
show them.
Right.
So this normally would allow you to be compatible with some other tripods. But in this case,
Are we not saying their name anymore? They've been in business for a long time.
no, but I am explaining. I mean, obviously we have our own tripod now, but we still wanted to make our old plates compatible with our new tripod, of course. So the compatibility is it's only two-way, as in you can snap it in this orientation or in this orientation, but not in this orientation or this. So it's basically two-way compatible, and it still fits on our head and snaps right in.
Yep.
I was reading a comment. I didn't hear what you said, so I assume it was the right answer. This
Great.
comment is the coolest sounding comment I've read in a while. I had problems with carbon fiber tripods with circular legs resonating in extremely high volume environments. Maybe unconventional geometry of the legs will actually help reduce sympathetic resonance.
Yeah.
We tested for that?
I'm happy to pretend like I know the answer to that, but I'm gonna let the much better mechanical engineer talk about that.
I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know
If we
need to
can
talk.
leverage this into purchasing some really interesting like sound equipment, I would love to do that.
You've
now.
already leveraged it into purchasing enough equipment, Tom. I don't think that one is going to be one more we're going to add to the list.
A few people are asking about, some tripods out there have removable leg that you can use as a monopod, which is not a thing we have. But if you need a monopod sort of style solution in a pinch, you can kind of use this thing. You want to show that off real fast?
I think our tripod has a more believable monopod function by using all of the legs at once. I don't think it's perfect for the monopod use case, but it is something.
Yeah.
And the short answer is we did not highly prioritize the monopod case, but because of our diameter, the natural way to grab our tripod is actually around all three legs rather than, we don't have an example of a competitor, but rather than around a single leg. So in this case, it's quite light, and if you deploy all the legs and keep them tight, you can actually achieve some level of monopod functionality just by using the basic tripod. You don't have to add on any adapters or anything.
Cool. If someone is using the counterweight hook, does that affect the overall load capacity of your camera? Are you more likely to experience any sort of center column slippage or issues?
The short answer is no, it shouldn't affect our numbers. The carrying capacity number on tripods, we've spoken about it before with previous communications, but there's no standard for these numbers, so it's quite hard to actually use that as a way to compare. I think people abstract and use it as a way to compare sort of approximate stability, but I think it's a poor metric for that. It's a poor proxy for that other that thing you do care about, which is stability. But yeah, in short, we've over-designed the tripod, and we list a load rating as our max load rating that is significantly below the load rating which causes it to slip or break. And so using a 20-pound bag and having a heavy lens on there, I think you're still set up for success with our tripod.
Just as a reference, why don't you weigh my 5D with that 70 to 200 on it real quick?
No problem. If only I had a scale available.
Oh, looky here.
Oh,
Perhaps worth noting that even in kind of like our lowercase scenarios, we're seeing center column slip with like reasonable hand input torque, around 80 pounds. And that might even be improving with the different finish that we're considering putting on the center column. We're considering moving to a wax as opposed to a painted finish. So in the worst case scenario, 80 pounds, you've got, if your bag weighs 80 pounds, ouch. And then plus your camera load, you're not going to be dragging that thing down.
Lawrence just wanted to bring up, I think it's a great point, which is These load capacities you see, a typical one for a travel tripod is around 15 pounds. This is a 5-pound setup, which is a 70 to 200 millimeter lens on a Canon, 5D. So it's not the biggest setup available, but it's not a tiny compact setup. Like this is on the large size, and this weighs 5 pounds. So those load ratings tend to be quite a bit higher than a typical set of gear that you might use.
Cool. Leg angles. There's 2 of them. Why and why?
Why not
Instead of just
3?
one, you mean?
Why any angles at all? Walk me through the engineering on that.
For us, we want to make a product that's efficient ultimately, and that means that we're adding design difficulty and adding cost, and we're going through those difficult design processes when we're solving real problems. That question may have been hinting at that some tripods have 3 leg index angles instead of just 2. We just didn't find that to be a common enough problem or a reason for purchasing or making a different decision on a tripod. And then combined with that, because of our incredibly tight, packed goals in terms of keeping this incredibly small, we're putting a lot of stress on some of these components, and we're up against just a very tight package and a lot of heavy load. You can imagine with an extended leg, I have all kinds of leverage if I want to push on it this way, or if I have the tripod set up and I bump one of the tripod legs with my foot, for instance. You're putting quite a bit of load onto these relatively small components. So essentially, we prioritize strength and durability of the hub instead of having 3 index positions, so we only picked 2 index positions.
Well, no, I think it's worth going into the backstory here. We actually had 3 leg index positions for a long time, and when we finally got to final production tooled parts, because we were so strapped for real estate, for really meat, for that aluminum material at the top, they were essentially chewing through this little bit at what I still felt like was a pretty high number and a very unlikely use case, but what the engineering team ultimately felt was unsafe for a product that we want to exist in the wild for a very long while. So I was convinced that the safer, more conservative bet was to go with 2 different leg stopping angles. And I mean, that's just like one of what feels like 10,000 kind of hard fought decisions that were agonized over in search of optimization, both utility and the allotted space that we have. So
and thus far validated by all of us using it and all of this sort of, we've got a stable of pros that we always try and get their feedback and get them prototypes in their hands, and at the end of the day, the thing works. It's awesome.
That's right.
And we just don't get the feedback that we're missing a leg position.
I think it was the right decision. Yeah. Remember how last time on the Hangout I had a shirt that said Tom James on it and it was gray, and
I don't remember that.
I was pitting out real bad. Your turn.
Hey, well, at least I don't have salmon pants on.
Yeah, that's nice. I made a choice this morning. I chose this.
James McLaughlin calls it a country club outfit.
Yeah, that's fair, James.
You don't. We also don't have symmetrical bald men. Another thing to point out.
I am out of. Yeah, that's true. I am fresh out of clean pants. I've been trying to get to Nordstrom Rack for like the past 18 months to get myself a new set of pants, and I just am fresh out of non-stained pants, except for these ones. So that's what we got.
No, and that's
Raw
the sort
stress
of
for this,
insider
or not?
information people crave
Yeah.
from a Kickstarter hangout.
I think so.
Getting a few questions about cleaning and maintenance. And I don't know how much we want to, eventually there's going to be a super in-depth instructional specifically about that, but maybe at a high level, how often will people need to clean it? How would they go about doing that?
So, all of our discussion about the hex key, it's not there. These things are interrelated, and what we want is to empower people to do the maintenance on the tripod if they want to. We want them to be able to basically take it apart and do it. So we showed you earlier how in ultralight mode you can pull out one leg section. And then with a little more instruction, you can also pull apart pretty much all of the leg parts and do a clean. So if you dropped it in sand and heard a little crunch that you didn't like, then that might be a good time to do that cleaning process. And with our planned hex key, you should be able to do all of that disassembly just with that included tool. So yeah, I mean, I spoke about it last Hangout, and I stand by it now. Like durability is a huge part of why you might buy one tripod over another, and ultimately you trust in the brand of Peak Design that will make sure this thing continues to work. There are too many parts and there are too many use cases for us to guarantee that things are never going to break. Occasionally, if you're a heavy user, you will wear out some components, and we'll basically make that good. We'll replace them, and we'll also give you the ability to do some maintenance on your own.
Mm-hmm. I also want to point out that the biggest pain in the butt with tripod maintenance is usually dealing with the bushings that pop out, especially when there are two separate bushings. That's a real problem. Or when you don't know, does the bushing go upside down or right side up? We have bushings as well, but there's only one bushing on each top or bottom section of the leg, and also there's really only one logical way that it fits on there, so you're not going to get that confusion aspect, which just from my own experience has been what's made me upset about maintaining tripods in the past. So I think that you'll find this to be a much more joyous maintenance situation.
Pokey yoke?
Don't know what you're talking about.
There's a design principle called pokey yoke or something like that. And that's the idea that you can't put something, that you cannot assemble something the wrong way, that there's only one right way to assemble it. And I think, yeah, especially with the legs, I think Rob has done an excellent job doing that, implementing that.
Yep. Very cool. I think our Japanese customers will appreciate the obvious reference.
Yeah, probably
to their
butchered the
incredible
pronunciation.
culture.
Well, while we're butchering design principles from other countries.
Yes.
Wabi sabi.
Yeah.
A few questions, or at least one question about how does the carbon stand up, like aesthetically and durability-wise over time?
So that might be hinting at an issue we had with some of the, we call this 100 build units. This is a build we did recently. We saw some issues with the carbon finish peeling. We were still in the process of testing different finishes, and Pete spoke about a wax finish earlier. There's also the option to go basically to add almost nothing to the carbon tubes coming out of the tool. And yeah, ultimately we are going to deliver a product that does not show wear or have big changes in appearance in a short amount of time. Obviously, if you beat the tripod up, you're going to scrape some paint off, and you're gonna create some nicks and dents. Mm-hmm. But
wear them with pride, you know.
Yeah.
We see people bring stuff in the office and in events at the store or trade shows, like just beat to hell capture V1s that are still like sliding cameras in and out. Like it's awesome.
That's
we
right.
get so pumped up seeing that stuff. I don't know. I'm pretty reckless with equipment, so.
Look, there are metal on metal interactions. So the way that these flanges of the head are nesting into these shoulders here. Trust me, we considered, do we put rubber bumpers on this sort of situation here in order to protect against that? And ultimately, it's a small functional and spatial hit, and in exchange for the fact that unless you're careful, which you can certainly opt to be careful about putting this thing back in there and making sure that it gets in the middle of that, like you might get some nicks over time. We decided that's okay. That's very much in the spirit of the products that we design and build here. These things are meant to be used and wear beautifully over time.
Is that an aluminum on the corner over there?
yeah,
Yeah, give that guy some time in the limelight. Like that's an awesome tripod.
Yeah.
We do go real heavy on the carbon stuff, but we still really like this aluminum version.
This is it.
Yep.
The aluminum version. The advantage of aluminum is price. The in comparison, yeah, as an aside, I think I can talk a little bit about the rigorous amount of testing we've done on all of our prototypes. So we've gone through these various phases of prototypes, getting closer and closer to a production model, and each time we have been hitting these things with a lot of testing, and it's basically in two categories: stability and damping. And then within stability, you have stability when you deploy it just to the hub, and then when you also extend the center column. So each time we've gotten a new set of tripods back, we put them through a barrage of testing, both internally and then working a little bit with an amazing third-party resource, this guy named David, who's been running it's called thecentercolumn.com. And it was this hilarious story where it turns out that he's basically in our backyard. He's down in Palo Alto and we're in San Francisco. And we've reached out, and he's actually been helping us do some testing on comparing, our aluminum version to our carbon version to MePhoto to Be-Free, all of these other tripods, travel tripods, as well as some Gitzo options. So we've been hammering these things with tests. There are a whole bunch of interesting nuances in terms of performance, and in the extended center column condition, aluminum has a slight advantage in torsion. So if you bump it this way, the aluminum center column is a little better. In terms of our general performance guide for these products, the carbon and the aluminum are basically the same. I think it would be an incredibly nuanced customer who could ever tell the difference. But I just want you guys to know how hard we've been testing these products, and reiterate that when we say we're building something with comparable performance to all the existing travel tripods on the market, that we stand by that. So.
Can you hear Tom over the 3D printer?
Yeah, Max is running some prints here. We run a pretty tight ship, so he's trying to get some of his print work done.
It is pretty cool. This is our new sort of rapid prototyping little corner. A lot of cool stuff going on.
Your Ultimaker is vibrating.
Ultimaker has
Feels like it's the glass portion. In any case, finding David Berryreiser, who runs the centercolumn.com, in our backyard was an incredible stroke of luck. And also this guy's a Stanford physicist. His work is highly interesting. Something about trying to slow lithium particles down to like a billionth of a degree Kelvin or something like that.
Right, tripods is his.
But
his
he
side
also
job.
moonlights in tripods and observed that there's actually no data around the two things that matter in tripods, which are stability and damping. And so to be able to interface with him, he's an incredibly nice guy, really, really thoughtful, and just the only person out there supplying third-party objective data about a wide variety of tripods. So we're super happy that the internet has produced a man like David Berryreiser.
Yeah, and it was amazing when we began the project. His site didn't exist,
Yep.
and eventually we found it, and it's still in the just beginning stages. But I do think it's awesome. There's so many comparison websites for cameras. And just there's way too much information out there. It's hard as a consumer to basically compare one camera to another, and there's a total lack of basically rigorous testing on tripods. So we think it's awesome that he's identified this need and is executing on it. And yeah, we're excited. I think in the future we can share a little more specific results about how ours compares to competitors. But yeah, coming up soon.
Cool.
Great.
We've got about 5-6 minutes left, so we'll probably start winding things up. One more question, and I saved this one because it was it might demand a poetic answer, Pete.
Oh.
How does becoming a tripod company change the perspective of Peak Design?
Well, that's a great question. And I think that, I don't know if you're going to like the answer, but it doesn't change the perspective of Peak Design. And in some ways that's because, and I've said this before, in my mind we've been a tripod company for a long time. I started trying to CAD up the original, idea for this in 2014, and it was based on an idea that I'd had back in 2008. And obviously we've sat so squarely at the beginning of our company in the we are a camera accessories company solving the problems for photographers. So if anything, it harkens back to hey, camera nerds, let's rejoice. This is the stuff that I'm sure many of you guys have dreamed up in the past. And so it's kind of getting closer to our roots. The bags thing, where we're actually selling bags which were designed for cameras to people who don't even own a camera at all. And as I ride the train in the morning, I see a lot of people with our bags on, and they might not own a camera. That's the thing that's a little bit perspective shifting. Even with that, though, I don't think that we've changed the way we do anything around here. We formulate our products slowly over time. We release them on Kickstarter. With each time we release our product, we've gotten a little bit better as designers and engineers, and as the entire back-end systems that support getting our products out into the wild. And our distribution network has grown a little bit. So I kind of like to think of the growth curve of Peak Design has been really slow enough and linear enough where it's always felt the same. It's kind of like boiling the frog. At no point, Pokio. Yeah, if you boil, the frog just kind of hangs out, and it's pretty comfy in that pot because it's just going up a degree at a time. And
then eventually,
I guess that's got that analogy.
And then eventually we're all dead. All the employees
bad
are
finish
burned.
to that.
Are burned.
just viciously burned.
Yeah. Everybody likes frog legs, though, so I think that there's a happy ending.
I think it's a great question. I think that's a wonderful response about the DNA of Peak. And just to reiterate, our core customers and the lifeblood of the company is based on cameras and photography and adventure, and we want to build products that are right in that market, delivering value to those people, and to continue to do that. And we will also want to push the boundaries for new products that are pushing that, increasing the number of people that could benefit by our designs. So, but we're absolutely excited to hit the core group of what we see as a core group of our users with this tripod.
As long as we continue to design products that are fun for us to use, then it means our products are going to have the same authenticity that they've always had. When you start going on in a line and talking to the investor board, and they're like, where's the greatest opportunity for growth in this company? And if that's what drives your decision making on making products, I think you've lost a little piece of your soul. So we're going to continue to avoid that.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Amazing. Hey Vic, will you turn the camera around and show the view we got over here? This is pretty cool. So the Peak Design office.
Yeah, the mic's back here though.
Oh. Let's see here. Okay.
This is
I follow you anywhere, boss. We were air conditioning.
The Peak Design office, we started in this building. At first it was just me, and I got a desk in the office of actually the guys who started Juul, the vape company. A friend of a friend knew some of those people, and they were kind enough to let me set up a desk there, and that was pretty cool. That's where I first downloaded a pirated version of SolidWorks and learned how to use it. And eventually Art came on board, and they, look at that backlighting, beautiful. But that makes sense. This way you can enjoy the view. Eventually we had to move to independent office on that floor, which is the old bathroom. This building that we're in right now used to manufacture all the tin cans in America for the West Coast, starting in the 1930s. So this thing is built like a tank. Eventually we moved upstairs into Suite 410, which you may have seen before. And then the neighbors moved out, we got the suite next door, and we just got the suite across the hall. And so We finally got ourselves that pretty view of the bay, and we feel super lucky to be in this building. There are 300 different companies who call this building home, a bunch of just makers and creators, and we're having a pretty good time. So anyway, Tommy, get your silhouette up here.
All right.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, why don't you come on camera, man? Don't worry, it's just your silhouette. Oh, there you go. Hey, this is Mark Wang. Mark Wang's been with Peak Design since, I'm gonna guess, early 2014?
Yeah.
Late,
Yep.
2013 is when you came on?
Almost 6 year now.
Yeah, late 2013 he came on. He started working for free. The guy's an electrical
Yep.
engineer, and he was doing med devices, kind of slaving away, and he came on board and said, I think I can add value for you. And I mean, Mark's story of what he's done for Peak Design is absolutely incredible. The guy had never built a website before, and the website that we have now, peakdesign.com, is entirely his architecture. He's guided us through every step of growing this business into being a super technologically savvy e-commerce powerhouse with integrated shipping all over the world. It actually, it literally floors me. I'm sometimes just blown away to tears by how much work that this guy has done over the years. So glad you were in this one, man. He deserves so much credit.
Thanks. Yeah.
You really
excited
do.
to be here too.
Anyway, that's Mark, that's Tom, that's Lawrence over there. You know
Lawrence.
him. And Vic
Victor.
on the camera. Those camera guys, they never feel the need to get in front of the lens. But Vic's been absolutely amazing. Thanks, brother. We're going to wrap it up. Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.